Ken Salazar is even using secretarial orders. He is the Department of the Interior Secretary. He's using secretarial orders, which there is no such thing. But he's playing like Obama is, with executive orders and creating czars, which are not constitutional either. And who's going to stand up and say, halt? I'm looking for that, folks. I'm very much looking for that.
Maybe our Congress should do it.
Yes, our Congress should do it. Yes, they should do it. But who is going to? Who is going to? There is also a continuing resolution to implement, administer, or enforce these secretarial orders. But as of September, anyway, let me back up. In the budget deal that none of us were happy that Boehner made with Obama, there was a provision to stop the funding for this secretarial order. It expires on September 30 of this year. So we still have a little bit of time where the biodiversity treaty is held back, at least for a short time. And we have to give credit where credit is due, even if these people aren't very conservative. The 1992 Rio Earth Summit not only produced those 3 treaties, it also produced Agenda 21. And as any of you who were watching Glenn back last night, it's a 300-page, 40-chapter blueprint for implementing sustainable development. Now, I've got to, this is non-binding, it's soft law, but I've got to tell you, in 2002, when I was in Johannesburg, I saw on the agenda that I could attend a meeting with David Rockefeller and a panel of a couple of other earth whackers. And so I attended that thing. At the end of a 4-hour meeting, everyone was supposed to bow their heads and close their eyes, which I do not do that unless I am praying to my God. So I'm watching these idiots in this room do that. They bow their heads and close their eyes, and they were supposed to imagine what sustainable development looked like. And they all did. And then they went to microphones, and each one after another, were telling us what they saw when they bowed their heads and closed their eyes. Not one could explain anything that made any sense whatsoever, nor was one like another one in the room. So they concluded this is why they have to write several tomes to explain sustainable development. In other words, we'll make it up along the way. All we know is that we got to have people who are our subjects without liberty. So that's what they're after. The President's Council on Sustainable Development, and you can find this online still, even though the organization under Bill Clinton was created, President's Council on Sustainable Development, to implement Agenda 21. It's still online, even though it is now defunct. But all the federal grants are still up and going. And so it doesn't matter that they don't have the name, they're still doing it anyway. And so the national town hall meetings happened, and we are now to a point of, after this being established in 1993, the funding was not cut during the years of President George W. Bush, unfortunately. So all of that time it has taken to trickle down to the local level. And so much of this sustainable development agenda is now coming out at the local level, and it took that much time to get there. On this President's Council on Sustainable Development, I think it's really interesting to note at least 4 of their 16 "we believe" statements, because they are very dangerous statements. The first, we need a collaborative decision process. No, we have a constitutional republic. That means that the people at the local level may have an idea, may have a need, and they elect officials who are responsive to them. And the government works from the bottom up. No, this collaborative decision process is a top-down plan. And so that's what they're doing. And number 10 of these "we believe" statements, they want integrated policies to achieve these national goals of what? Social equity. They don't make any bones about their socialist agenda. They're very clear about it. Number 11, The U.S. should have policies and programs that contribute to stabilizing global human population. Oh my. Remember back in those days when they had zero population growth? Well, that's also now part of this whole Agenda 21 and the President's Council on Sustainable Development in the USA, which is the entity that has caused this trickle-down effect that we are feeling all over today. Its collaborative decision process, to explain it further, our democratic process is to elect officials and then hold them to account. The consensus process, on the other hand, which is used in this collaborative decision-making process, there's no choice in who represents you. Voting is not allowed. I cannot tell you how frustrating it is to go to these UN meetings. They never vote on anything. They never really resolve anything. At this first transitional committee for this Green Climate Fund that I went to just last month in Mexico City, it was amazing. Because, first of all, they spent the first day fighting over, among the 40 of them, who was going to lead. Like the little kids. That's all they could fight about. And then after that, all of a sudden, someone would come out with some array of ideas. And who came up with those ideas? Well, somebody in the back smoke-filled rooms came up with these ideas, gave them to a useful idiot on the committee, and they just brought them out. And, you know, all that they would fight about then, as this woman from the Philippines is a hoot to listen to, because all she could fight about was that, well, we don't have an Asian on the committee. I don't like this. We don't have an Asian on the committee. I'm like, please. You know, is this the only thing you can fight about? So in consensus, I want to give you one other example. There's no agreement, but there's an absence of expressed opposition. Very big difference. There is no arguing or debate. I mean, unless it's something childish, but not on the subject at hand. And then it spreads grants to every community. The city of Dallas was looking at a bond issue a couple of years ago. And my city councilman said, we're going to have a town hall meeting. So I went to the town hall meeting to figure out just where he was on this whole bond package issue. And they broke us up into groups, and then they gave us a facilitator. Y'all been facilitated?
Yes.
I listened to all the reasons, and then they went to each person in the committee and they said, now how much would you think would be the right amount to put as a bond amount on the ballot next election? And these people came up with all these answers within the framework of what the facilitator presented. And then they got to me. That was so fun. I said, 0. You have not made your case. I don't support any bond being put on the ballot. And as I was walking out that night, there was a man who even had a degree in city planning, and he said, I wish I'd met you before. He said, I didn't even think about that option. So that's what facilitating does to you. It takes away the options. It's not a democratic process.